We're fearlessly talking about the biggest stories that matter to you the most. Breaking news, John Calipari is finalizing a 5-year deal to become the Arkansas Razorbacks' next head coach, covering college sports like no one else. The biggest guests in sports. We now welcome in Hall of Famer Jim Calhoun.
Such a pride I had, I came to Connecticut.
The legend, Tim Tebow, joins us.
We'll run it back. I like it.
The legend, Herschel Walker. Welcome in, everybody. Thursday afternoon edition, Aaron Torres Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Torres. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's having a great day. We're going to do the best with our echo, with the sounds in the background. Torres is at a mystery location in San Antonio. We couldn't go live from the arena. We couldn't go live from the convention center. They booted us out of here. Torres is telling too much truth. People are getting mad here in San Antonio, so we had to find a mystery location to do the show. But we are, in fact, in San Antonio. We were at media availability all day. Fun day, fun week. You know, a lot of travel for both producer Matt and I. But we are in San Antonio. I think we're going to have a fun show today. We're going to open, obviously, Final Four is here. We had time with the players, with the coaches. Just a really fun day. Everybody's in town, all four teams, a lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm. Fans are starting to trickle in. So we'll talk about kind of first impressions of the Final Four, teams, coaches, what they said, anything worth noting there. From there, listen, we don't have to do portal stuff, but you guys love it. And we'd be remiss, frankly, if we didn't do more of it. Because so much is happening. By the way, for people who don't know, there's a dead period coming up as all the coaches come to the Final Four. So the news should quiet down for about 4, 5, 6 days. But there has been some news that we are certainly going to discuss. Louisville, Pat Kelsey can't stop picking up big recruits. I'm starting to call him a menace to society because he is a terror in the portal right now. I think Louisville is trending as a top 10 team in college basketball. UConn gets the guard that they desperately needed out of the portal. Then we got to talk about Kentucky because I don't know what it's been like on Thursday and Wednesday, but Tuesday night after you miss on Magoon Gwath, after you miss on Donovan Dent, Silas Demery had a meeting with the staff. I think there's starting to be panic with Kentucky, and I don't think there should be. Before we get started, a couple quick reminders. One, make sure you're subscribed to the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips, new videos going up on YouTube every single day. We really do appreciate everybody's support because we are just pumping out content left and right, and you guys have been incredible with your support of this show. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, Apple, Spotify. Wherever you get podcasts, make sure that you are subscribed. Also, make sure if you want to on the podcast, leave a 5-star rating and review. Also, before we get started, you know what I got to do? I got to thank our friends. I got to thank our partners. I got to thank BetUSTV and BetUSTV.com. Okay, so listen, we are here at the Final Four thanks to BetUSTV. BetUSTV sent us to Phoenix last year to watch UConn beat the brakes off the Purdue Boilermakers. This year, 4 number 1 seeds, Florida, Auburn, Houston, Duke. We are here rubbing elbows with Todd Golden and Bruce Pearl thanks to BetUSTV. It's that time of year as we transition out of college hoops into Major League Baseball, into the NBA playoffs, NFL playoffs. By the way, NFL draft is coming up. Some point I'll finally dust off those Shedeur Sanders takes. The point I'm trying to make is that BetUSTV is the place that you have to go for all of your coverage, your insight, your analysis, and more. BetUSTV has unbelievable analysis for every sport. Professional soccer, European soccer, again, NBA, NHL playoffs, NFL draft coming up, the college hoops crew, Corby, Jeff Nadeau, they crush. They're awesome. BetUSTV is the place you have to go. Thank you to BetUSTV. By the way, you'll see some stuff on my social media pages, Aaron_Torres on Twitter, Aaron Torres Pod on Instagram, that we did. We did some fun stuff with the players here on Thursday afternoon. Thank you to BetUSTV for their support. Really quickly, should also mention, we got to thank our friends and our partners at SeatGeek. So SeatGeek is the official ticketing app here of the end of the Aaron Torres Pod during March Madness. And the cool thing about SeatGeek, it's the number 1 rated ticketing app in wherever you get your apps. There's 70,000 events on that website right now, okay? And so, yes, if you're coming to San Antonio, if you're at the Final Four, if you need tickets for the Saturday night games or the Monday night games, go to SeatGeek, use promo code Torres. You get $20 off your first purchase. Best part, It doesn't have to be just the Final Four. Say you're going to a concert, you're going to a hockey game, a tennis match, golf. If they sell tickets, SeatGeek.com will give you a $20 off promo code discount if you use the promo code Torres. So thank you to SeatGeek. They are our partners for the NCAA tournament and beyond. They are the official ticketing partner of the Aaron Torres pod. Thank you to SeatGeek. With that said, it's a busy Thursday here in San Antonio. By the way, it's like 210 degrees outside. Torres isn't ready for the humidity here in Texas, but I'll tell you what, there is no more time to waste. Let's get to the topic of the day. Topic of the day, San Antonio. We're here. By the way, you never been to San Antonio, beautiful city, downtown, walked the river walk on Wednesday night. Apparently, the Duke guys were out there. My buddy saw Cooper Flag. I was not there. Not saying that they were doing anything nefarious, just that they were walking the river walk. But San Antonio is beautiful. We are here, again, at a mystery location in San Antonio. But I just bring it up to very simply say that being here, I just want to spend about 15, 20 minutes just talking about the vibes and the energy around this event and around the four teams, because we had media availability here on Thursday afternoon with all four coaches, all four teams, all four locker rooms were open. And again, we're going to get a lot of that content out on the BetUS TV channels on social media. But I bring it up because, I'll tell you this. My buddy Curtis Wilkerson, Inside Arkansas, he works with John Neighbors. They always do a vibe check like the day or two before the game. So think of this as just a vibe check with the four teams in San Antonio and maybe a takeaway or two with each of the four teams as we get set for these games on Saturday. By the way, Friday we'll probably go live at some point. We'll make our official picks for these games. But this is the first reaction as these teams are now in town. We're starting to look ahead to the games. First team, we'll kind of work in chronological reverse order. The late game is Duke-Houston. I want to start with Duke. Impressive group of guys. Listen, it's been kind of a talking point here in college basketball the last couple weeks. Is Duke hateable anymore? Like Shire's just a quiet, humble, young dude. He hasn't scolded anybody yet. I was telling producer Matt, I was at the game where Coach K was yelling at Dylan Brooks in the handshake line. Not Dylan Gabriel. That would have been interesting. Dylan Brooks in the handshake line. I was at that game. So Coach K, by the end, he was a little grumpy, a little mean. John Shire is not that. Great guy, great young coach, great team. First of all, I'll tell you this, producer Matt, you're going to smile in the background. We did some trivia games with all the players on all the teams. One, I hate to feed into stereotypes. The Duke kids are really smart, though. We were in the locker room with them, talked to Caleb Foster, talked to Pat Ngongba. Pat Ngongba, I believe is how you pronounce the name. I apologize. Damon Harris, great group of kids. They all were. And it's not to say that the Auburn kids weren't good or the Florida kids weren't good, but great group of kids, easily likable. And I think the one thing, even before we get to maybe Duke specifically, the four teams, great, all good kids. I think you hear so much negativity in this world about NIL and agents are doing this and parents want that. Just great kids on all four teams, all four groups. And I think the other thing, too, that I noticed is that none of the teams are just happy to be here. They are happy to be here, but I think Todd Golden said it best. He said, our guys aren't going to be happy just getting to a Final Four and losing on Saturday night. We came to win 2 more games. And I always tell this story is that I remember being in the locker room after Oklahoma. I just mentioned I was at the Duke-Oregon game, and I think it was 2016, 2017, something like that. And Oregon played, no, that was a different year. But anyway, maybe it was the same year. I can't remember. But Oregon played Oklahoma in an Elite Eight game. That was the year Oklahoma had Field, Lon Kruger was the head coach, whatever. And I only bring it up because I remember being in the locker for that Oklahoma team after that game. And I remember all the players saying, we're going to the Final Four. We're going to the Final Four. And it really struck me, and I've told this story a million times, so if you've heard it, forgive me. But it struck me is that I kind of sat there and said, these guys realize they have 2 more games to go win after this. And then we know what ended up happening from there. They go to the Final Four. That year was in Houston, I believe. And in that game, they just got destroyed by Villanova. And so to me, all 4 teams happy to be here, but not happy to be here. Happy to be here, but know there's more work to do. And as far as Duke is concerned, again, just great group of kids. I think Shire is easy to root for as much as you can for a Duke guy. And I think the thing that stands out, he is very confident in his team. You go to the press availability, there's a lot of conversation about, recruiting freshmen versus the older players. Obviously, Auburn's one of the oldest teams, maybe in college basketball history. Houston's very old. Juwan Roberts is a 6th-year player. Florida, Walter Clayton's a 5th-year guy. Elijah Martin's a 5th-year guy, on and on. Duke, the stat, I forget who threw it out, but I think there are only 3 teenagers that are starting in the Final Four. So 5 starting spots for 4 teams. That's 20 starting spots. Only 3 of them are teenagers. They all play for Duke, okay? But what was interesting to me, Shire talked about that. Listen, when you have freshmen as good as Malawach, Knipple, and of course Cooper Flagg, it doesn't really matter. I mean, Cooper Flagg's the best player in this tournament. No, Janai Broom and Walter Clayton are right there. So whatever. But the point I guess that I'm trying to get to is that, Shire doesn't see like, Houston's got a bunch of 23-year-olds, so that means that no. He knows he's got a good team. He knows his young guys are ready for it. And respectfully, like, if you beat Alabama, if you beat Arizona, there's nothing that this team has not seen. A couple other interesting notes on Duke. First of all, I did ask Shire about the positional size. I'm obsessed with this because I think everybody focuses on the one and done. And I even said in the question, I said, everyone's focused on all these freshmen. You guys are so freaking big. Like, was this by design? What went into building once you knew you had Cooper Flagg? And one, he said, listen, when you have Cooper Flagg, you can build a team a lot of different ways because he's so good. But 2, what he also said was, yeah, it was kind of intentional to make the biggest team that we could that was also skilled, that could do a lot of different things. And he mentioned year 1 when he took over for Coach K, very big team, but they weren't very efficient offensively. That was the year they had Derek Lively, Filipowski was hurt, and good team, not great team. Last year he said he thought they scored well, but they just weren't very big. And so this year the goal was, hey, we need to find a way to get scoring with the size, and once we do, we're going to be invincible, and that's basically what they've been. I think Duke fans are on my butt. They've been on my butt all year. Like, Torres, you never give us. No. That's the most impressive team. That's one of the more impressive teams physically that I've ever seen in college basketball. Not saying it's number 1. I know UConn fans are going to get in the chat, say, Torres, what about last year? Our team was good. What about Auburn? What about Houston? Listen, a lot of good teams. All I'm saying is when every dude that Duke puts out there is 6'5", 6'6", or bigger, and they're all skilled and they can all shoot and they can all score, it just makes it such a challenge. It was funny. Producer Matt and I were in the Duke locker room when Malawach walked in, 7'2", every inch of it, big team, physical team, whatever. But that's the thing that stood out, was Shire basically acknowledging, yeah, we're young, but we know how good we are. The other thing that kind of kept coming up, and we'll switch over to Houston, kind of transition kind of in between. I hadn't heard this story, but I will tell you, by the end of the press conferences, I was already tired of hearing it. Apparently, Shire's first year, so this is now his 3rd year. Year 1, the first game that he coached as Duke's head coach was a secret closed-door scrimmage against Houston. And he basically said, I want the toughest, most challenging team that I can possibly have to prepare my team for the season. This would have been, I guess, the 22-23 season. But I just bring it up because, they talked a lot about the impact of that Houston scrimmage. Kelvin Sampson talked about the impact of that scrimmage and how you could tell right away. And I think Shire and Sampson kind of quietly have a pretty good working relationship, considering the age discrepancy between the two. Let's talk a little bit about Houston. I think the thing that stood out to me about Houston, first of all, we talk about it all the time. If you listen to this show, it's not new. Houston, maybe the most insane stat that I don't hear anybody talking about. This is a team, literally, that has lost 1 game since November. And I get it. I get what Florida did going into the SEC tournament and coming out of the SEC tournament. I understand that Duke basically never lost in the ACC. They lost, 1 game out of 22, 23, 24 games when you factor in the ACC tournament. But it's like, can we acknowledge that Houston has not lost? They've lost 1 game since November. It is April 3rd, 2025 right now. April 3rd, 2025 right now. Houston has lost 1 game since November. I keep going back to the stat. Ryan Day had yet to face Michigan as the Ohio State football coach this year. The last time Houston's lost 1 game since the Michigan-Ohio State game. Remember what happened with Michigan-Ohio State. We remember what happened with Ohio State winning a national championship. It feels like a million years ago. Houston's lost 1 since then, in overtime to Texas Tech. By the way, of the 4 losses, 3 of them were in overtime. So 1 loss in regulation, 1 loss since November. And I think the thing that stood out about being around that team was, to me, they won't say it. They're being diplomatic. They're saying what they have to say. You can tell there's a chip on that shoulder. Like, wait a second now. We're 34-4. We've lost one game since November. And all you guys in the media want to talk about Florida and Auburn and Duke. What about us? And so I think they're going to come in with a chip on their shoulder. We'll do our game previews next on Friday. I think that Duke is a justifiable favorite, but I think Houston is ready for that challenge. And I think that was the big thing that they talked about at the press conferences, is like the challenge that comes with facing Houston. They faced them last year in the NCAA tournament, remember? I think that's an interesting note. Obviously, if Jamal Shead doesn't get hurt, there's a chance that Houston beats Duke to go to a Final Four. But I just bring it up to very simply say Houston is not afraid. They are ready to go. And I'm excited to see him on the court on Friday, on Saturday. I don't think I've covered a Houston game in person. Love the defense. I told them to their face. I said, you're my favorite team to watch. I love the way that they defend. I love the way that they get after it. I just think the question with Houston is going to be the size. We had a very observant Duke fan in the chat saying, Torres, you keep trying to pick teams to beat Duke. Well, just remember, every team left in this tournament, whether it's LJ Cryer at Houston, whether it's whoever, there's going to be small guards. And you saw the fits that Duke gave to small guards at Alabama, Mark Sears specifically, Chris Youngblood. Well, guess what? LJ Cryer is a little bit small as well. Let's go to the early game, which is the first game. We'll kind of work backwards. Auburn and Florida. We'll start with Auburn, okay? You know what the big story for me for Auburn was? Bruce Pearl is doing a hell of a job of convincing everybody that his team is the underdog. How about this? Number 1 overall seed. They were basically number 1 in the country for like probably 8 straight weeks during the season. You would have thought Bruce Pearl was a 9 seed coming to this tournament, okay? And listen, I think part of it is justifiable. Duke is the betting favorite. Florida beat Auburn in the regular season. Houston, of course, as we just said, 34-4, 1 loss since November. But you talk to Bruce Pearl, you listen to Bruce Pearl talk at the podium. He's like, "Oh my goodness, I think we're the underdog." And it's like, Coach, you might be doing a good job of convincing your players that. I don't know if you're convincing anybody in this media room that you guys are the underdog. But I think the thing with them, a couple things that stood out, really loose team. That's what happens when you have 24, 25-year-old grown men. It was interesting being in the locker room, is that it was, you talk to them about the rope, if you will, that Bruce Pearl gives that team. In other words, what I mean by that is, and I was talking to a couple of the players about it, is that Bruce Pearl seems to do a great job of letting those guys be themselves, Janai Broome, Tahad Pettifer, Chad Baker-Mazzara, but reining them in when he has to. The guys, listen, the guys in the locker room, they all felt like, hey, we never took a step back during the season. If you remember, they lost 3 of 4 coming into the tournament. They lost to they lost to Alabama at home, buzzer beater. They lost to A&M on the road, Alabama at home. And then they won the SEC tournament opener against Ole Miss. Then they lose to Tennessee. So I'm losing a game in there somewhere. It doesn't really matter. What was it? Producer Matt, what's the game I'm missing? It was before Texas A&M. It was on the road. Was at, I can't remember. My brain is so fried. They lost. That's right. They lost 3 of 4. So I actually got them right. But I've heard Producer Matt in the background there for the first time. So at A&M, that's for sure. Yes. So they beat Kentucky. They did the belt to ass on Rupp Arena court. Then they lose at Texas A&M, and Torres brushed it off. Oh my goodness. They just won the SEC. Then they lost to Alabama on the final day of the season. It was at the buzzer, though, right? It was basically at the buzzer. Mark Sears, big shot, whatever. And then they win against Ole Miss. They lose against Tennessee in the SEC tournament. And so they said, hey, we never felt like we took a step back. Other minds may disagree, but I think, to me, and I talked to him a little bit about it, the Michigan game in the Sweet 16, that feels like they kind of hit another gear in that Sweet 16 win over Michigan. It was, I think they were trailing by a little bit, and they just got high. I think they went on like a 10-0 run, and then the Michigan State game was so fascinating because they were never really, I don't really feel like there was ever a doubt that they were going to lose it, except for that minute or two after Janai Broome went out with injury. But I just bring it up to very simply say they are a loose bunch. They're a fun bunch. And I think they're ready. I think the other interesting thing with Auburn, they have faced all 3 teams in this Final Four. They played Florida in the SEC. They, of course, played Houston and Duke in the out-of-conference. Beat Houston, lost to Florida, lost to Duke. And talking to people kind of around the team, I don't think it's like a huge sizable advantage, but what I will say is, I think they feel like, okay, we've seen all these guys. There's nothing going to be new. The scouting report doesn't change significantly. I mean, admittedly, you played Houston the first week in November, so that was very early in the season. You played Duke in November as well. But I just bring it up because you talk to the guys and they're like, yeah, we played all these guys. There's nothing else to see. I thought the other interesting thing, and this is kind of an Auburn-Florida crossover, Auburn last year in the regular season lost to Florida and then comes back and beats them in the SEC championship game. Now, admittedly, Hand-Lockton got hurt, their big guy. And then the other thing is that, you can't compare one season to the other. But I just bring it up because I sit there and say some interesting synergy. One, they've played all three teams, but then also, and I think this is an important part, is that last year, lose to Florida in the regular season, bounce back, beat them in the SEC tournament. This year, you lose to Florida in the regular season, you get them again in the Final Four. Really quick, because I want to get to some portal stuff. I think the Florida stuff was kind of interesting. Golden, he's the real deal, man. I think, like Shire, didn't look like this was his first press conference, his first rodeo, kind of handled everything like par for the course. You look at Florida, Golden was the one that actually said, hey, we're not satisfied. We're happy to be here, but we're not satisfied without winning these next two games. I thought the vibe was kind of that way from all four teams, but I thought he was the one that expressed it the best. Only thing that really stood out to me, a couple things. One, really close team like they all are. They were playing Madden in the locker room when we walked in. They were chanting DJ Lagway's name. Of course, they were not Madden, College Football 25. And so you have that. And then I think you also, on top of it, outside of the tightness of the group, the closeness of the group, the thing that really stood out to me, honestly, people, they're really big. Like Duke is the biggest team in college basketball. I was walking by Alex Condon. Guy is a monster. 6'10", 6'11", long arms. He just looks the part of an NBA player. 6'11". Who else? Ruben Shinyelu is a beast. Hand-Lockton is huge. Just another team that just physically looks the part. Listen, I've covered NCAA tournaments. Yeah, I find it interesting, right? We've all heard the stat this week that Ken Palm has kind of been ranking teams since, I think, 99. I guess it would have been 98, 99 at least. And that supposedly, according to his database, these four teams are 4 of the 10 best teams, according to his algorithm, that have ever existed. I think when you see these teams in person, it's not surprising. Florida looks the part. Duke certainly looks the part. Producer Matt, great note on the bottom of the screen there. You can see there in Ken Pomeroy's history, all 4 teams in the top 10. And yeah, they looked the part. So those were my day one media day takeaways from the Final Four. And we'll do a live show on Friday where we kind of actually pick the games. We'll try to do it from the arena. A little bit of a better backdrop than our mystery setup back here. But yeah, those are the big takeaways. Duke looks the part. Sampson, I'll tell you what, Kelvin Sampson, typical coach, just he didn't even seem like he's happy to be here. Another game, whatever. Golden looks the part of a veteran coach. Same with Shire. But a fun group of, fun 4 teams to be around. And like I said, it was just a fun day. And we will have more media coverage on Friday. Tell you what, though, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. I swear we're not trying to force portal conversation into this show, but there have been some developments since we last recorded on Monday night, I guess it was. Louisville. They can't stop picking up portal commits. These people are crazy. Pat Kelsey, a menace to society. UConn, the much-needed guard that they desperately needed. Kentucky desperately needs some players. They haven't gotten very many so far in portal season. We will take a quick break, come back, talk portal. All right, we're going to get back to the show in a minute, but before we do, many of you ask me all the time, Torres, what can I do to help support the show? You give me hours and hours and hours of content every single week. What can I do to help you? Well, I'll tell you what. Do me a quick favor. Check out the Aaron Torres Media merchandise store for all of your team-specific shirts, hats, and more. All available at aarontorresonline.com/merchandise. A lot of you wondering, Torres, what can I get in that merch store? Well, first of all, we got our brand new Hope and Pope Kentucky basketball t-shirts. That's right. Mark Pope has arrived. He is here to save the day. Get your Hope and Pope t-shirts there. Also, Arkansas fans, the Big Pig Invasion is here. You can get your tees there. Basketball School Alabama shirts. Mora Hurley 2024 UConn shirts for your tailgates at Rentschler Field, your games at the XL Center or Gamble. And oh, by the way, your Mike effing Woodson gear for Indiana. If you love football, we got you covered too. We got more Dion shirts and hats than we even know what to do with. The freeze warning has hit the plains. Auburn fans, grab your freeze warning tees now. And of course, our new era, new rules shirt applies to Nebraska football and its incredible fan base. We have more coming for the fall, plenty in stock right now. So make sure to check out the Aaron Torres Media merch store at aarontorresonline.com/merchandise. And you can always hit me up with any questions. Aaron Torres Podcast Questions @gmail.com. All right, everybody. I'm back. Good to be back. Appreciate everybody's support. A little bit of a quiet chat. Where are you people? Let's go. Let's get into this chat. Let's talk. Everybody's yelling at me. Damn it, Torres says nobody. We got a couple Duke fans in the chat. Appreciate you guys. You know who else I appreciate? I appreciate our friends. I appreciate our partners. I appreciate Collie Puffs and ColliePuffs.com. Okay, so I've told you all about Collie Puffs, but March is here. You're on the couch. By the way, April's coming. You're looking for that snack that is healthy but delicious. It's time to get that beach body going, baby. We got to try some Collie Puffs, okay? We've told you all about them. Family-owned company, not far from where I live. Joey, a huge sports fan. He was part of our Survivor pool, the Aaron Torres Pod Survivor pool. And basically, he was sitting on the couch one day saying, I need a snack that is both healthy but delicious as well. And that's where he came up with Collie Puffs. Baked, not fried, avocado oil, no grease, healthy ingredients. But the best part is they taste delicious. At this point, you don't got to take my word for it. What you got to do is try them out for yourself. Visit ColliePuffs.com. That's CAULIPUFFS.com. ColliePuffs.com. Also check them out on Amazon. I've told you a million times. You got that cart open on Amazon. Don't want to know what's in the cart, you little weirdo. That's between you and, you and the big guy upstairs, you and Visa, you and MasterCard, whoever's fine. I don't want to know. What I do want you to do, throw some Collie Puffs in. You're going to like them. We appreciate their support. Thank you to ColliePuffs.com. With that said, woo, buddy, let's go ahead, switch gears. Let's talk portal. I see the Louisville fans celebrating. I see the Kentucky fans petrified. So let's go ahead and dive in. Listen, let me put it this way. I don't intend to force portal talk into this conversation, but right now it's happening. Right now there's a lot going on, and so we got to talk about it. And the first team on our late Thursday portal update that I want to talk about, the Louisville freaking Cardinals. Okay, let me tell you this. This was totally organic. It was not my intention. Pat Kelsey, the only way I can describe him, that man is a menace to society, okay? I can't log into social media without Louisville picking up yet another portal commit, and it happened on Thursday yet again. We're going to get to who they got on Thursday, but let's reset the week, because on Tuesday afternoon, we recorded portal content, okay? By the way, producer Matt, you can pop it. CBB Transfers on Twitter, CBB Transfers on Instagram for all your late-breaking portal news. CBB Transfers on both Instagram and Twitter. I run it. My team runs it. I got some great interns helping me. CBB Transfers on Twitter and Instagram, okay? But so it was funny. Tuesday, we did a portal segment. We think, this is the last portal update we'll have for a while. Louisville, in that segment, gets a commitment from Adrian Woolley, guard from Kennesaw State. And we talked about it. I'm not going to do the whole thing over, but just quick reminder, 18.8 points per game. True freshman, originally from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, was an all-conference freshman team member at Kennesaw State this year. 18.8 points per game, about 3.5 assists per game, 41% three-point shooting. I thought he was low-key one of the most underrated players to enter the portal. Well, I bring it up because Pat Kelsey didn't think he was underrated. He gets the commitment from Adrian Woolley on probably Monday or Tuesday. I guess it was probably Monday. Gets a commitment from him. I think it was Sunday, whatever. Point I'm trying to make. They get the commitment from this kid. By the way, we talked about it at the time. He's from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, okay? So when he entered the portal, listen, I don't accuse anyone of tampering, but I think it felt pretty obvious that Alabama was going to be a player. So yeah, Louisville ends up landing this kid instead. They get him on Monday. We do a portal update on Monday. Here was the funny part. By the time the portal update went live, within like an hour, Pat Kelsey gets another commitment. Ryan Conwell, we have not talked about this one. Xavier guard played at Indiana State a year ago. Remember, Indiana State NIT runners-up, probably should have been in the NCAA tournament. He goes to Xavier, year one under Sean Miller, 16.6 points per game in the Big East. 6'4" guard. I said it the other day, this is not a knock. If he was 6'7", he'd be a top 10 pick in the NBA. He'd probably already be in the NBA. That's not a knock. It's just a reality. But I just bring it up to very simply say that he is a very talented player, goes to the Big East, immediately has success, 41% shooting from three this year. And so as the Adrian Woolley commitment, as we were talking about it, we get off air 10 seconds later, maybe not 10, but it was probably within 30 minutes. Our guy Ryan Conwell commits. Huge get. I think this is an all ACC caliber player. Now, he's more of an off-the-ball guy. I think Adrian Woolley is going to have the ball in his hands. Mikel Brown Jr., McDonald's All-American, will have the ball in his hands. But I just bring it up because these two kids are total X factors, total difference makers. Ryan Conwell, by the way, I'm helping our Torres on Indiana page. We have a great student, Caleb, who helps run the Torres on Indiana page. But we believed going into the week, Ryan Conwell was going to take a visit to Indiana. He doesn't even get to Indiana. He's from Indianapolis. He commits on the spot with Pat Kelsey and Louisville. Now we got to get to Thursday because it's Final Four. We're sitting there. We're listening to John Shire. We're listening to Kelvin Sampson, Janai Broom, all the big wigs in college basketball, Walter Clayton. And then boom, Pat Kelsey does it again. Isaac McNeely, you see him right there. Listen, I saw somebody put this out on Twitter. When you average 14 a game at Virginia, that's like averaging 70 in other places. Like to average 14 at Virginia is like averaging 32 at Duke or 32 at Alabama, okay? 14 points per game, 43% three-point shooting. By the way, what was the stat? Joe in the chat says the 10th best non-senior three-point shooting percentage. So of returning players, McNeely is number 3, Conwell is number 14, and they took an insane amount of attempts. Great chat by a great comment by Joe there. So McNeely, you can see their 10th best non-senior three-point shooter, Conwell 14th. So top 15 nationally, basically, in terms of returning three-point shooting, and they both took 243s. And so when you look at this class that is being put together, producer Matt has all of the stats on the bottom of the screen. What is the stat, producer Matt? All three are in the top 15 of 24/7's portal rankings. One, I'm going to do portal rankings at some point. I'm so far behind, and everybody's committing left and right, I can't even keep up with it. But 2, 3, I don't know if they'd be my top 15, but top 20. Maybe they are the top 15. The point I'm trying to make, these are all really good players, and it's not as though Louisville doesn't have guys coming back. First of all, I mentioned Mikel Brown Jr., McDonald's All-American. What is he? Louisville fans, correct me. What is he? Highest rated recruit since, is Samardo Samuels the name? I think it might be Samardo Samuels. Remember that blast from the past? Highest rated recruit that they had. Played in the McDonald's All-American game the other day. They got other guys coming back. Now, I know they lose Chucky Hepburn, and I know they lose Terrence Edwards, who are both phenomenal. It doesn't change the fact, though, that you look at this team and you look at this roster that they have put together. Listen, I'm going to start doing my way too early top 25 for after the national championship game on Monday. How is this not a top 10 team? I think about that backcourt. Yes, thank you, producer Matt. Producer Matt just went on a Samardo Samuels deep dive on social media, which good for you. I don't even want to know what you found in that Samardo Samuels deep dive. But bring it up because 3 top 15 transfers according to 24/7 Sports. Also, Mikel Brown Jr., and you have guys coming back from this year's team. Don't have the whole list in front of me. Remember, Ali Khalifa, the transfer from BYU that played for Mark Pope at BYU, he was out this year with injury. Some of the other guys on that team, you go through them. They're going to be bringing back some pieces. Like I said, I know you lost Chucky Hepburn. I know you lost Terrence Edwards. But think about some of the other guys that are going to be back. By the way, correct me if I'm wrong. Javon Hadley, because he's a JUCO kid, has eligibility left, if I'm not mistaken. Was a player, all the JUCO kids are getting another year of eligibility. So Javon Hadley could potentially be coming back. James Scott, I thought James Scott, to me, was one of the revelations of college basketball this year. This is a kid that follows Pat Kelsey from college at Charleston, plays 16 minutes a game last year. He walked into the ACC when Pryor goes down in the Bahamas, just didn't even look like he missed a beat. And so I could go on and on. Louisville, Pat Kelsey, you got your guy. And we talked about it throughout the season. I thought Pat Kelsey would be good. I didn't think he would be this. I did not think Pat Kelsey would be this. This year, what were they? Tied for second in the ACC, where they were 18-2. They went 18-2 in the ACC. I know they lost in round 1 to Creighton, whatever. Creighton was a really good team. But now, to hit the portal and reload the way that they have is incredible to me. By the way, I know other people, other fan bases, they just have a lot of money. Well, guess what? Everybody needs a lot of money. I'm here to tell you, if you're getting kids in this cycle, you have money. By the way, because people are mad at me. Why doesn't my school have this? Why doesn't you have to have money? So don't tell me Louisville has a lot of money. Okay, guess what? So does everybody else that's going to get players. At some point, Kentucky is going to get some players. We'll talk about them. You need money. Indiana got a couple guys over the course of the week. You need money. Kansas, whenever they decide to put together a roster, because they got nobody right now except for Darren Peterson, you need money. So don't tell me it's about money. It's also about spending money, and it's about selling a vision. You think Ryan Conwell, Adrian Woolley, all these guys you see on your screen, you think they didn't have other opportunities? Isaac McNeely was recruited by North Carolina. You think North Carolina doesn't have money? Ryan Conwell recruited by Indiana. You think Indiana doesn't have money? No, it comes down to who these teams are, what they're about. Credit to Louisville, the early runaway winner in the transfer portal. Let's keep it going. So it's really funny. I was at media availability on Thursday. Late Wednesday, you start hearing buzz that Silas Demery Jr., guard from Georgia, was going to commit to UConn. Crystal ball from Travis Branham. Crystal ball from On3. I want to say it was maybe Joe Tipton, whatever. Maybe it was Joe Tipton. Maybe it was Pete Nakos, whatever. But talking to my UConn people, it felt like it was coming. I was actually going to sneak away during media availability to pre-record a segment about Silas Demery committing. Didn't get to do it. He commits during media availability. So let's go ahead and talk about it now, because I will tell you this. Silas Demery, I believe, may have been the best lead guard available in the country. Commits to UConn. Huge commitment at a position of need. And we got to talk about this kid, okay? So first of all, and I mentioned this the other day because we talked about him, I think, when Pope went to visit him, that, Kentucky had an in-home visit with him. I said with Georgia, it was so interesting because Georgia, you kind of realize early, they might be better than you think. So you turn them on, and they have Asa Newell, who I don't know if he's even declared yet, but he's going to be a first-round pick. I really actually liked him a lot. And you're tuning in thinking you're going to talk about Asa Newell, whatever. And then you see the Silas Demery kid. You're like, who is this kid? 6'5", gets to the rim, finishes at the rim, good three-point shooter. He kind of had a little bit of everything. And so you never want to speculate or project who's going to enter the portal, especially, by the way, at an SEC school. It's not like Georgia can't afford to keep him. But when he entered the portal, I sat there and said, that kid is one of the best players in the portal. And I think it was reflected with who recruited him. I mentioned it a minute ago, but Kentucky had an in-home visit with him over the weekend. I bring it up because North Carolina, NC State, Will Wade, remember now, is at NC State, desperately wanted this kid. And so over the course of the last couple days, he visits St. John's. He visits UConn on Tuesday. But as I said, Carolina wanted him. Kentucky wanted him. St. John's wanted him. I know BYU wanted him badly. But instead, the UConn Huskies get him. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, what a commitment it is for them. First of all, like I said, 6'5" guard. I mean, there just aren't a lot of guys like this in college basketball. 6'5", can get to the rim, can finish at the rim. Whatever, great three-point shooter. There's a reason everybody wanted him. By the way, should mention, make sure you're following our CBB Transfers Twitter and Instagram page. Also, Torres on UConn. Also, if you're a Husky fan, remember, SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres. If you're going to the Final Four, we got the women's Final Four in Tampa. If you're a UConn fan watching this, you're going. Get $20 off your first purchase. Use SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres. So, UConn ladies are playing well. The UConn men get Silas Demery. And what I would say is, first of all, I thought he was the best lead guard in the portal. Again, guys are coming off the board so fast. Donovan Dent's probably a little bit more accomplished. Silas Demery's a little bit of a different player. But what stands out to me specifically about him and specifically about UConn is pretty straightforward. This is the guy that UConn desperately needed, okay? After the season ended, I did a segment on the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel, and really it was on the podcast when they lost to Florida in the NCAA tournament. And I did a segment I did a tweet about what is the biggest need in the portal. And I had a lot of responses, probably 50 plus responses. And the number one response I got was, Torres, we need a big guy, we need a big guard. We need our next Tristan Newton. Tristan Newton, for people who forget, was the Final Four most outstanding player a year ago, 2-time starter on a national championship team in 2023 and 2024, second-round pick of the Indiana Pacers, but 6'5", could get to his spots. By the way, people don't know this. He set the record for triple-doubles at UConn. You know how good you have to be to set the record for triple-doubles at UConn? And so UConn needed that guy in this portal cycle because if you watched them this year, I thought that they were actually in pretty good shape in a lot of places. Solo ball at the 2. I know Alex Caravan was up and down, but we know what he provided, 6'9", 6'10" on the wing. Liam McNeely, this past year, what he provided on the wing. Terrace Reed and Samson Johnson weren't always perfect, but they were good. The one thing you didn't have was that big guard that could just beat teams up. You had Hassan Diarra, who I love to death. I would never say a bad thing about Hassan Diarra, but he's 6 foot tall. He's playing on one knee. His knee's busted up. He's got tendonitis. And then Aiden Mahaney. It's not a knock. Aiden he did the best that he could, but he's a 6'1", 6'2" guy, can't beat people off the dribble. He's a spot up shooter, very limited in what he could do. And so I only bring it up. It was so obvious that I remember tweeting it during Maui. Remember when they went 0-3 in Maui? I was tweeting, UConn needs that big guard, and they get him with Silas Demery. And so now it's going to be fascinating to see what they do the rest of this portal cycle because they really actually don't need that much. I know it was a disappointing year, but based on what's coming in the freshman class, what's coming back, I don't think UConn's that far off from actually being really good next year. Put the ball in Silas Demery's hands, let him make plays, but think about who's going to be around him. Solo ball, Tuesday night, announces he's coming back. I almost wonder if they push back Silas Demery to give Solo ball kind of that window where we can all celebrate him coming back. And so now you get Silas Demery as the dead period starts. I think we talked about it to lead the show, but remember, with the Final Four starting, it's a dead period in recruiting. No visits for kids. Coaches aren't supposed to contact. I'm sure some of them are going to be, but no portal recruiting for the next 4, 5, 6 days while we play this Final Four. And criticize the NCAA for whatever, but good for them. Focus on the games. So I only bring it up because now UConn has some real momentum going into this dead period. You have Solo Ball announces he's coming back. Jalen Stewart last weekend announces he's coming back. Every UConn fan knows we're all fans of Jalen Stewart. We've seen him do stuff. We believe, I think most of UConn Nation believes, this kid has a chance to truly be a difference maker as he evolves in that program. Terrace Reed, that's the big one. By the way, I should mention before we get to Terrace Reed, the 4-man freshman class could be 4 contributors, 3 McDonald's All-Americans. Braylon Mullins, one of the best pure scorers in this class from Indiana, part of that team. You also have Eric Ryby, big man. You have Darius Adams, who I think is a year away from taking over the mantle of Silas Demery. If Silas Demery plays well, I don't know that he's an NBA guy just yet, but you have that next big guard in the wings, okay? And so I just bring it up because UConn, in my opinion, is not that far off. The big thing now, you got to get Terrace Reed back. There's been rumors for weeks that he would consider entering the portal. My buddy Mark Zanetto, you all know Mark, Big East Energy, does an unbelievable job covering UConn. I've actually talked to Mark a couple of times, but I haven't seen his updates. But I think he thought early on that Terrace Reed would enter the portal. As of right now, we're recording here at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. Terrace Reed has not entered the portal. So I just bring it up to very simply say, I think you get Terrace Reed back, top 10 team again, and they're right there with St. John's as the best team in the Big East. I would probably give the edge to them over St. John's, depending on what happens these next few weeks. But I like this fit. And it's not just that he's a good player. He is the exact player that you need. By the way, on our Torres on UConn page, I put out the tweet. A lot of people from the UConn community shared it, liked it. I think everybody realized just how important this kid was for the Huskies. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take one more break. We're going to come back. When we do, we got to talk about the dark side of the portal. You know, John Rothstein always talks about the dark side of the bubble, the dark side of this. Dark side of the portal is got to get some guys. Kentucky has not gotten some guys. We're going to come back. We will talk about them next. Should Kentucky fans be concerned? Quick break. Be right back. What's up, everybody? It's AT, and listen, long day of podcasting. Sometimes don't always look the best. So look at this. It's a little bit not great, okay? Well, here is the great news. The great people at FioBox said, Torres, you're a professional. You just got 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. You need to look better. And so they sent me a couple awesome things. I want to pull them out for you right now. This is all from the winter collection, by the way. Spring collection is coming out. We got the vest, very, very, very nice. The sweater, very professional for when I go to professional events. We got these nice blue jeans. I think the question now everybody's asking is, Torres, how do you actually look when you put that stuff on? Let's find out. Well, what do you think? Sweater fits perfectly. Great for all occasions. When I go to games, when I go out to a dinner, warm weather, cool weather, it's perfect. Speaking of perfect, these jeans are phenomenal. Great for games, great for social events. Oh, by the way, a little bit stretchy if those New Year's resolutions aren't going on as planned. Really quickly, we got to try. Let's try out the vest. It fits perfectly. Not a surprise. So here's the deal. If you want to look as good as Torres, this is what I need you to do. I need you to go to FioBox.com. That's FIOBOC. FioBox.com. And here's the best part. For listeners to the Aaron Torres pod, you get 20% off with code Torres20 at checkout. We will also put a referral link in all of our YouTube videos. Thank you to FioBox. By the way, make sure you're following them on social media at FIOBOC. Thank you to FioBox. You want to look as good as Torres, check them out. Again, promo code Torres20 for 20% off. All right, everybody. I'm back. Good to be back. Final segment of the show. So good to be back. First off, quick shout out to my wife who just texted me, hey, sweetie, what time do the games start? Had to tell her they were on Saturday. She also asked me yesterday, what city are you in? So, yeah, she's really invested in the Final Four. We are live in San Antonio. If you missed the top of the show, we were supposed to go live from the arena. Then we were supposed to go live from the convention center where there's a lot of coaching activity. We had issues at both, so we are at an undisclosed location. We will do another show on Friday where we will make our official picks for the Final Four. We will do that from the arena again in San Antonio, the Alamo Dome. By the way, San Antonio, I don't get any, I don't get paid to say this. I love this city. Beautiful, walkable. It is hot as you know what out right now, but you know what? It is an amazing city. The Riverwalk is the real deal. So incredibly hospitable city hosting the Final Four. Producer Matt and I are here. All right. So we've talked a little bit of portal. It is time to continue the portal conversation. It's time to talk about the dark side of the portal right now, though. By the way, CBB transfers on Twitter, CBB transfers on Instagram. You know who needs to make sure to subscribe to those pages? Kentucky fans. Because after the excitement of landing Cam Williams before the season was even over a few weeks ago, Kentucky kind of struggling in the portal. As Louisville's getting guys, as whoever, UConn got their guy, Auburn got Keyshawn Hall over the course of the last few days. And so I just bring it up. There is panic in Big Blue Nation. But should there be? Let's go ahead and discuss. First off, listen, Kentucky fans, I hate to do it, cover your ears, but we got to talk about what has happened really the last probably 8 or so days. Like I said, you get the commitment from Cam Williams last Friday. Loved that commitment. We talked about it on Sunday night show. But even during that time, it felt like you were trending in the right direction for Donovan Dent, guard out of New Mexico. Listen, I'm guilty of it. All my sourcing, everything that I was hearing was that Kentucky was in the driver's seat to land this kid. 6'3" guard, really talented. It seemed like it was Kentucky. I actually thought there was a little bit of North Carolina buzz. And as I said on the show, I said, I just don't know if UCLA is going to be able to come up with the funds to land him. And then UCLA lands him, okay? And so listen, Great player. This isn't a Donovan Dent segment, but you lose out on him in a situation where it felt like all of the chips were falling towards you eventually landing him. I bring it up because over the course of the last couple of days, Tuesday night, I was on air on Fox Sports Radio until 2 a.m. Eastern time. By the way, left for the airport at about 6 a.m. Eastern. So it was a quick turnaround for old Torres on Tuesday into Wednesday. But I was on air on Tuesday night. What did we talk about in our Tuesday portal update? We talked about Magoon Gwath. Magoon Gwath, center from San Diego State. Magoon Gwath, forget the Kentucky beat writers. Travis Branham, 24/7 Sports, never misses on a crystal ball. He's great at what he does. Puts in the crystal ball for Magoon Gwath to Kentucky. About 5 hours later, Magoon Gwath announces that he is going back to San Diego State. I think it's also worth noting Kentucky really pushed on Silas Demery. Silas Demery, of course, just committed to UConn. Now, I will say, Kentucky did have Mackenzie Mbako on campus on Thursday. We'll see if that thing pops here anytime soon. By the way, chat and also producer Matt, if you see anything with Mackenzie Mbako, let me know. Former McDonald's All-American who was on campus at Kentucky throughout the day. I only bring it up because over the course of the last couple days, I have had a lot of people hit me up. Torres, I'm worried about Mark Pope. Torres, I'm worried about Kentucky. Torres, why can't Mark Pope close? And to be fair, it isn't just this portal cycle. Remember, in recruiting, Caleb Wilson felt like he was trending towards Kentucky forever. He ends up at Carolina. Nate Ament, you were in the mix and then you weren't. And I think there's a little bit of panic in Big Blue Nation. I am here to say I certainly understand it. I certainly would not worry yet. Okay, let's explain why. First of all, Kentucky fans, I'm just going to say it. Not a criticism of you guys and girls. You guys are great to me. Love you guys, whatever. Don't be mad at your beat writers. Don't be mad at me. Don't be mad at any national media member if we put, you guys as a favorite, or Kentucky or UConn or Louisville or Clemson or Florida as a favorite, and you don't land them. The one thing I can tell you, covering the portal is literally unlike anything else that we do at all in the media, okay? I was talking to a coach the other day. He said a day in the portal is like a week in real life. A week in the portal is like a month in real life. Stuff changes so fast. And so when you see a crystal ball, be excited, take it with a grain of salt. It's not the same as a recruit that you've had a relationship for 3, 4, 5 years before you get that crystal ball and ultimately that commitment. Stuff changes fast. By the way, it's not only your school. We talked about it a minute ago. Ryan Conwell from Indianapolis. Indiana thought he was a lock to Indiana. He was coming later this week to visit after Louisville. Never made it to campus. He commits to Louisville before he ever gets to Indiana. I can name, Adrian Woolley, the kid from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, that I feel pretty confident Nate Oates thought he was getting, doesn't end up getting him. And so one, portal stuff changes all the time. Two, what I would say is every situation is a little bit unique. The Magoon Gwath, I actually think it's a great story. I've said on this show, he did not want to leave San Diego State. Go back and do some background homework on him if you haven't already. Mark Ziegler did a great profile when he originally hit the portal. Listen, my understanding from that article, his parents they're struggling. That's not a knock. It's a reality. Life's hard. Him getting a college education, him getting a college scholarship was incredible. But when you have the chance to make life-changing money, he had to pursue the portal. And then he entered the portal. San Diego State got him enough money where he felt like, okay, I didn't want to leave. It doesn't have to be the highest bid. I just need to help my parents. And so Mark Ziegler, again, from the San Diego Union Tribune, did a great story quoting Magoon Gwath after he announced. He said in that article, he took less money to come back to San Diego State. Kentucky fans, there's nothing you can do about that. And here's the other thing. Isn't that the story we want in the portal? Haven't we heard too much complaining about its unlimited free agency and it always goes to the highest bidder and this and that and the other thing? Well, let's celebrate a kid that could have taken a couple more bucks but wanted to stay at San Diego State. That's not a Kentucky problem. Just like it's not any different if he had been crystal balled to UConn or to St. John's or to Syracuse. That's a great story. He wanted to stay at San Diego State, and he did. So every situation's a little bit different. And I'm just not going to freak out. Listen, as so many of you have pointed out, there's a lot to go still in the portal. And I know it feels like everybody's ahead. I promise you, everybody's not ahead. As we're recording, always subject to change. Arkansas hasn't taken a single portal commit. Auburn did land Keyshawn Hall, but remember, Auburn's got like 8-9 guys to replace. Duke's going to have to make some additions in the portal. The portal is still very much just getting started. I know it doesn't feel like that when Louisville has 3 commits, when this school has this many commits, when that school has that many commits. There is still so much that is going to go into the portal over the next 3-4 weeks. Remember, the portal is still open for another 3 weeks. There are great players that have not entered yet. We still got 4 teams left. Some of those players are going to enter. Remember, we're going to have players that enter the NBA draft that will also put their names in the portal and consider coming back. Keyshawn Hall was an early example of that at UCF, but there's going to be others. And the thing I keep going back to, and Kentucky fans, I think you're smart, you figured it out. Go back to this time last year. I'm recording on April 3rd, 2025, okay? On April 3rd, 2025, John Calipari was your head coach. He did not leave for Arkansas until a few days later, and you had 0 players on April 9th, April 10th, April 11th, April 12th, whatever it was. Mark Pope doesn't take the job till April 10th, April 11th, April 12th, and then he has to put together a roster from scratch. And so, yes, I know in a perfect world, you want your roster set. It's a lot easier to get all your work done early. But the counter to that is, guess what? You have 3 great high school players, Jasper Johnson, Malachi Moreno, Caden Lewis. Malachi Moreno, McDonald's All-American. Jasper Johnson should have been. Caden Lewis, really good. Cam Williams is coming in. That's the 4-man that you wanted. Brandon Garrison. Brandon Garrison's a former McDonald's All-American. He's going to figure it out. He's going to get even better. Colin Chandler. Travis Perry. Trent Noah. Do I have to keep going on it down the list? I just named what? What is that? 7, 8 players? So you have what? 2 guys left to get? 3 guys left to get? I'm not saying you shouldn't be frustrated. I'm not saying that you don't wish that a couple crystal balls didn't go your way. I will say, by the way, I'll defend Kentucky fans on this. I don't know who the mole is in Kentucky's basketball offices that's putting out this information with the media. Mark Pope's got to find him and tell him to shut up. Until it's done, until Joe Tipton has the graphic done, I don't want anyone knowing that this is a thing. Because I do think that is hurting the public perception. Stuff is getting out a day or 2 early when it isn't quite done. Do you see that happen at Louisville? No. You don't even know kids are on campus at Louisville, and then they're committing. Pick a different school. UConn. Silas Demery was clearly done a couple hours before he ended up committing. It didn't get out until it was done. The school announced it today, which means he's already signed paperwork to be a Husky. So whoever's leaking this information to the media, Kentucky, Mark Pope's got to put a seal on it. But I don't think it's time to panic if you're a Kentucky fan. I just think you can't freak out too much, and you just got to take it for what it is. All right, I'll tell you what. We got the chat is mostly people arguing. So I think what we are going to do, I think we'll go ahead and get out of here. We just gave you an hour from an undisclosed location here in San Antonio. It is 6 o'clock in San Antonio. Time to go get some dinner. Time to go chill. Time to go experience the nightlife of beautiful San Antonio. Time to maybe take a shower, too. We've been running around since 7, 8 a.m. All right. If you're not subscribed, Aaron Torres Pod YouTube, please go ahead and make sure to do that today. Also, just got a response from my wife. Oh, games aren't until Saturday. Why did you leave so early? Well, I'm glad you're so invested in my career. All right. We're going to get out of here. Subscribe to the pod. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, 53,700 subscribers. I still think we can get to 60K before the end of this month. We can't do it without your support, though. Subscribe, tell a friend. We cover the portal better than anybody. Rate, review the show on Apple and Spotify. Go on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, etc. Again, rate and review. And then thank you to our partners. SeatGeek.com. Use promo code Torres. Anything, not just San Antonio, not just the Final Four. If you're a UConn fan going to the women's Final Four, you can use SeatGeek as well. SeatGeek.com, BetUS TV, Collie Puffs as well. Time for me to go. Appreciate everybody's support. We will be back tomorrow. I'll make my official picks. Shout out to Torrent Craig. Shout out to Rachel who hates my voice. Shout out to JJ Reddick, you F-head. Unblock me, bro. I'll be back Friday afternoon. Aaron Torres.